The women of our lineage are all tragically consumed by love, their hearts ensnared in the throes of passion. As the saying goes, extremes lead to reversals. Thus, this generation has given rise to a femme fatale such as myself, one who has unwittingly caused the demise of several husbands. Point 1. From birth, I possess the uncanny ability to perceive the fortunes of those close to me for the day ahead. Upon rising, a mere glance at the auras hovering above the heads of my kin would reveal that my elder sister was destined to stumble by evening, and my stepmother would impose upon me the task of collecting beans as punishment. From a young age, my aunt instilled in me the importance of concealing my talents from others. She claimed my abilities surpassed her own. We, the bearers of destiny, are the remnants of an ancient clan that has persisted for millennia within the realm of immortals. The bearers of destiny can share their fortunes with their husbands, and when cultivated to perfection, even alter fates and extend lives. However, due to the relentless devotion of our ancestors, who sacrificed their own fortunes to safeguard their beloved partners, we have become increasingly ill-fated with each generation. Now, our once mighty bloodline has dwindled to mere mortal existence. My maternal grandmother, at least, was a distinguished lady of high birth, while my mother has been relegated to the status of a concubine. I had vowed to my aunt on numerous occasions that I would refrain from utilizing my gifts lightly, yet that promise was shattered when my father was carried back home, bloodied and broken. Upon neglecting to pay my respects to my grandmother, I was struck by an ominous premonition as I beheld her radiant face exclaiming, "Our ancestors have manifested, and the spirits of our forebears protect us." I hurried to my aunt's quarters, where she lay frail upon her bed, her complexion as pale as parchment.
Sienna,
She coughed, covering her mouth, revealing bloodstains between her fingers. "You have used it, haven't you?" I inquired. "You know as well as I do that you are not the legitimate wife. A concubine is unworthy of sharing fortunes with her husband. You will face retribution." She shook her head.
you do not understand.
"My relationship with your father has endured for so many years. There is a way, but I cannot bear to watch him perish before my eyes. I yearn to ask, and what of me? If something were to befall you, what would become of me?" But the words remained unspoken. I had hoped my mother would somehow defy the fate of the bearers of destiny, yet I found her equally ensnared by the inexorable fate of our lineage. 2. After my mother's passing, my father made no arrangements for her funeral rites. Yunyong shielded me from misfortune, departing so young. "In my heart, I am profoundly grief-stricken," he remarked, stroking his beard with suggestive implication. "I heard your maternal grandfather once suffered a grave illness beyond cure, and your grandmother pleaded with numerous deities until her own health deteriorated. Strangely enough, your grandfather then recovered completely," he added, scrutinizing me as I knelt on the ground. "Sienna, do you know why this occurred?" I closed my eyes briefly. "Stepmother, this is the worthy man you desperately sought to save." "Because," I articulated through gritted teeth, enunciating each word deliberately, "the women of our bloodline are born with the ability to absorb calamities for their husbands, but only in legitimate marital unions. My mother was merely a concubine, blessed with insufficient fortune, thus unable to ward off the disaster." "So that's it, that explains everything." My father's expression ignited with fervor. He seized my arms, lifting me from the floor. "Sienna, your father now faces a vexing predicament. I wonder if my daughter would be willing to alleviate it for me." "My mother's funeral," I began hesitantly. With a dismissive wave, he declared, "That's trivial. If you resolve this vexation for me, I shall ensure your mother's coffin, memorial services, and eternal lamp are all properly arranged." Thus, I was betrothed to Chi Chonglan, the critically ill sole heir of Marquis Chongping, becoming his fiancée. 3. My father was a man who wouldn't release the hawk without sighting the hare. I was taken to the Marquis residence to share a chamber with that pallid youth scarcely drawing breath. Behold, in the face of power, feminine propriety vanishes. My father had perpetually admonished my legitimate sister and me with lectures on female virtue. Yet, at a single word from Marquis Chongping, he unhesitatingly delivered me to their estate. I clasped the youth's ghastly pale hand. In truth, transferring fortune requires no physical contact. But having never touched a man before, this fleeting touch felt like defiance against paternal authority. He opened his eyes, regarding me feebly. "Are you the celestial maiden come to save me?" I felt a sudden urge to laugh. I had witnessed his radiant, unyielding demeanor upon returning from military campaigns. Renowned for exceptional valor, he was hailed as a rare youthful prodigy. Now, clinging to life, he not only believed such absurdities, but also feigned foolishness to curry my favor. Lowering my head, I murmured, "The general is this humble one's future husband. I possess no talents, save for praying ceaselessly for your well-being. Only thus might my birth mother receive proper burial." He reciprocated my grasp, inquiring, "What is your name?" "I am called Ancien. Lady Sien, should I survive, I vow never to fail you." These words still echoed in my ears when, bound limb and limb, I was cast into the river. Liar, I thought. For, after obtaining my vital fortune, Chi-Changlan miraculously recovered. Meanwhile, a prominent black mole erupted on my delicate cheek. Henceforth, I became notorious as the region's ugliest woman. Yet Chi-Changlan showed no disdain, constantly showering me with delicacies and trinkets. He proclaimed everywhere, "Without my wife, I would have perished, though her beauty is marred. To scorn her would render me no better than a beast." All extolled this romantic tale, countless maidens envying my purported luck. Only I knew the truth. Despite his lavish gifts, he consistently avoided intimacy. His gaze remained tender when observing my profile, but upon seeing the mole, faint revulsion flickered in his eyes. Amen. The chief family's associates insinuated repeatedly that an ugly woman was unworthy of being the marquis's wife. My father, meanwhile, implored me to cling tightly to Chi-Changlan, insisting this marriage must not be lost. Understandable, since selling me once had earned him 2 official promotions. The respite proved brief. During bandit suppression near the capital, Chi-Changlan rescued the eldest princess, who became enamored with the young general, swearing to marry none other. An imperial decree arrived at our household. After reading it, my father immediately spread news of my critical illness requiring convalescence in a rural estate, then ordered me bound and drowned in the city's river. In the harsh winter, the river's chill pierced to the bone. My padded garments rapidly saturated, dragging me downward. Icy water flooded my lungs, my limbs grew numb, and phantom souls seemed to clutch my ankles. At death's door, I instinctively borrowed fortune from Chi-Changlan. Fortunately, I had revealed only half the truth. They never imagined I could not only substitute for my husband's misfortunes, but also pilfer his destiny. As we remained betrothed, diverting his fortune came effortlessly. I broke free from the ropes and sodden skirts, struggling ashore. In that moment of rebirth, I resolved, whether my father or Chi-Changlan, I would make them rue their actions. I would seize their cherished power, forcing them to taste the humiliation of being trampled like dogs. Guided by redirected fortune, I was found dripping wet by a matchmaker who sold me to the capital's premier brothel, Spring Abode Tower. The madam scorned my facial mole, declaring such flaws unfit for clients. Without hesitation, I knelt. This lowly girl acknowledges her flawed appearance, yet having studied literature, I am literate and possess skill in hairstyling. I beg madam's compassion to permit me to serve as hairdresser for the courtesans. After haggling, the madam acquiesced. Consider this my good deed. Inyang lacks a hairdressing maid. If she accepts you, attend her. 5. Inyang, Spring Abode's premier courtesan, possessed lotus blossom beauty and an enchanting voice. Before the madam, she addressed me affectionately. "What a clever younger sister. How could I possibly dislike you? Come, my chamber is here. You'll reside in the outer room. Obedience shall earn you ample comforts." Once alone, she vented her fury by shattering objects, scattering fragments everywhere. I explicitly requested a presentable maid. Why do those bitches get neat attendants while I receive this mole-faced crone? Everyone treats me as useless and easily bullied. Clutching my garments, I trembled in feigned terror. This is Ancien's fault. I implore the lady to calm her wrath. Glaring, she kicked my knee. "Begone. Never show that side of your face, it's hideous." 6. Inyang loathed my mole. Even when my innovative hairstyles helped her outshine other courtesans, her demeanor remained hostile, alternating between blows and insults. Humiliations from clients she redirected at me. She imposed prolonged kneeling, whipped my limbs, and denied me food. To minimize abuse, I voluntarily composed poems and songs for her. These verses attracted cultivated, generous patrons, preferable to merchants, easing her circumstances. Fearing I might join rivals, she ceased physical violence. Yet she occasionally probed, "Since you're literate, you must hail from gentry. How did you fall to our sort?" Pointing at my mole, I bowed my head, feigning inexpressible shame. Satisfied, she would laugh, then order me to remove her shoes or empty chamber pots. As if commanding a well-born lady, dragging lofty blossoms into deeper filth, amplified her joy. I often thought, perhaps such muddled existence wasn't terrible. Rejoicing in rewards, venting on inferiors, never contemplating tomorrow. I despised her, scorned her, yet envied her. Within a few years, faint lines began to trace the corners of Yin Yang's eyes, and the rouge could no longer conceal the weariness in her complexion. The spring abode pavilion had welcomed fresher, more youthful girls. As Yin Yang aged and her beauty faded, the elegant patrons who once sought her company ceased their visits, replaced by coarse boatmen reeking of sweat. Even I, an unsightly girl with a prominent mole on my face, was reassigned by the madam to attend to the new star, Yan Yang, dressing her hair and applying her makeup. When I went to Yin Yang's room to collect the remaining belongings, the door was abruptly flung open by a drunken man, his breath foul with liquor. Waving fists as large as vinegar bowls, he bellowed, "Where is Yin Yang? Bring her out. If that wretched woman isn't here, I say, hic. It's because she looks down on me." Startled and with no time to evade, I was seized from behind. Yin Yang, I've caught you at last. Let me savor your fragrance." His hands, covered in coarse dark hair, and the oppressive stench enveloping me from behind made me nauseous. In an instant, my mind raced through several methods to eliminate him without alerting others. A rustling sound came from the doorway. I turned to see Yin Yang. Her expression was complex, mingling pity, sorrow, satisfaction, and a sense of inevitability. She must be pleased, I thought, delighted that I was about to taste the bitterness she had endured for years. I contemplated flashing her a defiant glare, letting her believe I was deliberately seducing her client. Proud and confident in her beauty, she would never concede defeat to someone as plain as me. Once she intervened, I could seize the chance to escape. But before I could act, she rushed over, pulling me away abruptly. Feigning a mix of grievance and coquetry, she nestled into the odorous man's embrace. "You brute. Even a girl this homely catches your eye? Don't come looking for me again." If word gets out that Yin Yang was outshone by a mole-faced wretch, how could I ever show my face? Though past her prime, Yin Yang still possessed a lingering charm far beyond my own, with a mole larger than my eye. The drunkard, slightly sobered, was flattered by her apparent jealousy. While she sweet-talked and cajoled him, her eyes signaled me to leave quickly. Clutching my collar, I hurried from the room, leaving behind all the unsettling commotion. 8. After that incident, I did not see Yin Yang for several days. Restless and uneasy, I longed to ask why she had intervened, yet feared the question would sound absurd. In a place like the Spring Abode Pavilion, such occurrences were hardly rare, but I despised being coerced. When I saw Yin Yang again, she was clad in somber, modest attire. Not an inch of skin exposed, as the attendants clumsily lowered her stiff form from a noose. The surrounding girls panicked, some shrieking a death, and scattering like frightened birds. Jostled by the crowd, my mind was a tangled mess. Yin Yang dead? How could it be? To my knowledge, she had amassed considerable savings and was even seeking someone to redeem her freedom last year. Why would she choose to end her life? Vivid images of her flashed before me, scolding me with hands on hips, pulling my ear in reprimand, watching me scrub floors while cracking melon seeds, and shoving me away from the drunkard's grasp. Gradually, these lively memories faded, leaving only a cold, lifeless body. How could she depart so abruptly? I thought dazedly. I never had the chance to thank her. 9. I discreetly distributed fruits among the maids, subtly steering the conversation toward Yin Yang's death. From their chatter, I pieced together the truth. A minor branch of the Shi family had a son named Shi Liang. The Shi clan, once a prominent lineage, had relocated south during wartime years ago. Falling gravely ill en route, Shi Liang was secretly abandoned by his stepmother. He admired Yin Yang's talents and promised to take her south, where she would become a respected lady of a noble house. Yin Yang believed her timely aid would secure a prosperous future through gratitude. Friends among the courtesans warned her, saying such aspirations were unrealistic. A prostitute dreaming of nobility was pure folly. Feeling scorned, Yin Yang grew more determined after heated arguments. Yet, Shi Liang drained her of all possessions, including borrowed money from her sisters. Once he had the funds, his demeanor changed. He avoided her and even accused her of delusional social climbing. Unable to repay her debts and with her hope of freedom shattered, Yin Yang, in despair, took her own life by hanging. That was just like her, I reflected. And that was why she saved me. By then, she must have already resolved to die. Yin Yang was foolish, sharp-tongued, and volatile, muddled and cowardly, venting her frustrations on those weaker rather than confronting the source. But she didn't deserve to die here. Peering from the window, I studied Shi Liang's appearance, refined and scholarly, the visage of a clever man. He must have heard of Yin Yang's death. Yet his expression remained unburdened, as if he had never consorted with a fated courtesan. Yin Yang's gravest error was entrusting him with all her wealth. Once her usefulness ended, what reason had he not to discard her? Excellent, I mused. Such a disposition makes him the perfect first husband for me, Song Xian. 10. Shi Liang, who styled himself a scion of nobility, strained to maintain appearances even when destitute. Arrogant yet insecure, he feared being looked down upon. Fond of both beauty and poetry, he claimed admiration for Yin Yang's literary gifts, quarreling with her when denied her manuscripts. He frequented poetry gatherings, eager to climb socially but too proud to flatter, his ambitions outstripping his abilities. Recalling the intelligence I had gathered at the Spring Abode Pavilion, I set down the final notes. Since coming of age, I had been seeking my first husband. His fate must not be too unique, someone like Qi Chonglan, whose fortune was easily borrowed but risked backlash, best avoided unless desperate. Nor too fortunate, as drawing from strong luck was like holding an umbrella in a gale, yielding meager returns for great effort. His lineage must not be too exalted, lest his family reject a wife from the brothel. Yet not too low, or I would remain trapped in obscurity. He should bear sins upon his hands, minimizing karmic repercussions if harm befell him. And he must have vulnerabilities I could exploit, granting me leverage in negotiations. Shi Liang fit perfectly. With Yin Yang's blood on his conscience, how could I not choose him? Asian, is the new poem finished? Reporting to the lady, it is complete. Folding the top sheet, I tucked it into my sleeve and handed the rest to Yang. As the maid to the Spring Abode's literary courtesan, whomever I served became the talent. Soon, I would also have a scholarly husband. 11. The next day, under the pretext of buying paper and brushes for Yang, I visited the bookstore Shi Liang frequented. As expected, he arrived within the time it takes an incense stick to burn. Patiently waiting, I turned my head at the precise moment he entered, presenting my flawless profile. A spark of admiration lit his eyes. Adjusting my hair, I lowered my gaze, engrossed in the book I held. He approached eagerly, but I frowned and turned my slender back to him, allowing him a view of my pale neck. The bookstore was so quiet I could hear his faint swallow. This lady is reading Orchid Whispers? He peered in and spontaneously recited several renowned verses about orchids. Initially, I responded with indifference, but his fervent demeanor and skillful conversation gradually softened my tone, and we began discussing poetry and literature. Today, I felt inspired to compose an ode to orchids. Yet halfway through, I found myself lost in uncertainty, I confessed. Thus, I came to the study seeking wisdom from the ancients. I retrieved the half-finished ode from my sleeve and handed it to him. He glanced over it casually at first, but then his eyes widened in astonishment. As he read further, his breathing grew heavy. "Is this written by you, madam?" he inquired. "Indeed," I replied, turning my head aside without a trace of guard. "In my youth, I read a few books and dabbled in writing without discerning its quality. Now, with no one to guide me, I simply write for my own amusement." As I spoke, my full visage was revealed. The prominent mole on my face caught his eye, causing him to step back involuntarily, his expression a mix of disgust and shock. It took Shi Liang a moment to compose himself. He forced a smile and reluctantly returned the paper to me, only to critique the ode's numerous flaws. While citing classics is commendable, these references are too commonplace, verging on cliché, he remarked. Moreover, this metaphor is somewhat inappropriate, as it offends a noble from the previous emperor's era. He rambled on with half-baked criticisms before solemnly declaring his reluctance to see a promising talent stray from the path. He expressed hope to meet again once I completed the piece, insisting that only after reviewing the entire work could he provide proper guidance. "Very well," I responded softly. "My name is Asian. If you wish to find me, come to the Spring Abode Pavilion." With that, I took my books to settle the bill and departed without a backward glance. 12. With calculated intent. It wasn't long before Shi Liang could no longer resist seeking me out. I showed him some of my past casual writings, which elicited a gleam of admiration in his eyes, though he feigned hesitation and asked, "Since Yin Yang and Yang Yang are renowned for their literary talents, and you are their maid, what of their poems?" I adopted a sorrowful expression, lowering my head to say, "They are my mistresses. How could I refuse them anything they desire?" He immediately feigned righteous indignation. "These courtesans, stealing others' literary fame, how despicable. I heard Yin Yang has passed away, likely due to her lack of virtue in life." I regarded him with astonishment, nearly applauding his audacity inwardly. Yet I uttered, "No one has ever spoken such words to me before. They are peerless beauties, while I am but a plain servant. They must be in the right, and I the one full of deceit." At this point, I looked up with a bashful, tender gaze, my eyes brimming with affection. "You truly are my soulmate, sir." The mole's potent effect made him avert his face with difficulty. Nevertheless, he grasped my hand firmly. "Xian Yang, you have endured so much all these years. My heart aches for you." 13. Within days, Shi Liang caused a stir at a poetry gathering within Orchid Ode. As the crowd buzzed with surprise and debate, he followed up with several more elegantly crafted poems and essays. Formerly dismissive wealthy youths now surrounded him, addressing him as brother and seeking his advice. The inkies now cost 2 taels of silver per cake. During this period, he would rush to the Spring Abode Pavilion, always inquiring upon arrival if I had new writings. I looked at him with feigned grievance. "You promised to marry me, sir." "I think of nothing else day and night. How could I focus on poetry or prose?" His face stiffened. "It's not that I am unwilling, Xian Yang. You know my feelings for you. But my home is impoverished and empty. What have I to offer you? I could endure hardship. But you are the finest woman in my heart. How could I let you suffer lightly? A foolish woman might next vow, 'I fear no hardship.' It is you I value, not wealth," thereby surrendering step by step to the man's pressure. In truth, the best response to a man's doubts is not self-justification, but turning the back on him. I lowered my head, covering my face as I wept. "I knew it. You dare not say it, but in your heart, you disdain me. You loathe my plain looks and use excuses to delay. You have no true intention to marry me." Struck by the truth, he panicked. "Xian Yang, how could I be so shallow? How could you not?" I wiped my tears. "Do not deceive me with empty words, sir. I have seen much in my years at the Spring Abode. Claims of not wishing to wrong me are mere pretexts. If a man truly loves a woman, passion overwhelms him, he would wed her the very next day without a second thought. Your excessive considerations prove you are not love-stricken. Say no more. You simply do not love me." "I do not," he exclaimed, agitated as an ant on a hot pan. After much frantic coaxing, he finally devised a new excuse. He sighed. "It is not my reluctance, but my family's strict traditions. I am from a noble lineage and you, Xian Yang, hail from the Spring Abode. If I were to marry you, the clan leader would surely have me beaten to death upon my return. How about this? Let me take you as a concubine first, then marry a presentable wife. In a few years, we can claim she died of illness, and I will elevate you to principal wife." I thought, how can he utter such words without fear of divine retribution? I sobbed delicately. It is not that I refuse. In truth, I too am from a respectable family, else how would I possess such penmanship and knowledge? Before my father passed, he summoned me to his bedside and made me swear that the second daughter of the Song family would never become a concubine. To break this vow would bring eternal unrest to our ancestors in the afterlife. I pledged to my father that if ever I were made a concubine, I would dash my brains out upon signing the contract, leaving but a memorial tablet to be wed. You cannot marry me, and I cannot be a concubine. It seems fate has not destined us to be together. Henceforth, let us not meet again. Sir, sure, even if I wed another in the future, a Xian will always hold you in her heart, praying daily for your happiness and peace." After a few more sobs, I covered my face and departed. 14. Later, Shi Liang came seeking me multiple times, but I avoided him. As he produced no new works, whispers of doubt began to circulate. Some mocked him for exhausting his talent, while others noted the graceful, refined style of his recent pieces, so unlike his former work, and suspected plagiarism. In desperation, he approached the madam, offering to buy my freedom. She extorted 20 taels of silver from him and readily released me. He came to me with the deed of indenture, anxiously saying, "Xian Yang." I regarded him coolly. "Have you brought this deed to make me your concubine?" He spoke humbly. "I have freed you from the Spring Abode. Can we not return home and discuss this?" I drew a copper hairpin and pressed it to my neck, smiling tragically. Though I may not be clever, Xian Yang understands propriety and shame. If I break my vow and follow you today, how could I face my deceased father? If you force me now, I shall stain these steps with my blood to appease my ancestors. My resolve terrified him. Xian Yang, you must not, you must not. Seeing him utterly distraught, I softened my tone. Yet there may be a compromise. Sure, I vowed to my father never to be a concubine. Simply take me to the authorities to register me as your wife. On the surface, without the formal betrothal rites, who would know you have married? When you reunite with your clan down south, you may take a presentable equal wife to manage household affairs. Xian Yang would consent to that. Convinced by my apparent concession, he was moved. Xian Yang, you treat me with such devotion. I will never betray you in this lifetime. I threw myself into his arms. Sir, Xian Yang trusts you. I went to the authorities to cancel the contract of servitude and subsequently registered under the Shi family household, thus becoming a woman of the Shi family. I gazed at the fortune enveloping Shi Liang, which wafted like an exquisite delicacy, tantalizing in its aroma. Shi Liang, oh Shi Liang, after all my plotting, you have finally fallen into my grasp, becoming a succulent morsel within my reach. That night, Shi Liang hesitantly confessed to me about his appropriation of my poetry. I merely smiled and replied, what of it? Previously, Lady Yang also utilized my verses, and they beat and scolded me for it. You are my husband. How could you not use them? I informed him that I not only possessed the ability to write, but could also emulate the styles of others. Political discourse was no challenge either. If any wealthy young master seeks a ghostwriter, I would surely be competent. This way, our household might find some ease. Shi Liang was greatly moved, praising himself for marrying a virtuous wife. Little by little, I absorbed his vitality, and he began to wither away. As time passed, the mole on my face gradually diminished, transforming into a beauty mark on my cheek. It did not detract from my appearance, rather, it added a touch of allure. I had finally shed the identity of an unattractive woman. From that moment forth, Shi Liang looked at me without disdain, only with profound infatuation. After taking on the role of a ghostwriter, our household became increasingly affluent. I indulged in numerous cosmetics, gold hairpins, and jade ornaments. However, whenever I ventured out, I donned a wooden hairpin and wore somber, antiquated garments, ensuring that I praised Shi Liang at least once in every 3 sentences. I rose early each morning to prepare meals, with the smoke from my kitchen visible to the neighboring households, yet I deliberately made the food unpalatable. After a few attempts, Shi Liang refused to let me cook again, preferring to purchase snacks from outside. The neighbors praised me for being demure and dignified, a rare gem of a woman. Declaring Shi Liang fortunate, he, feeling proud, echoed their compliments. Wealthy clients seeking ghostwriting would occasionally visit, and I reserved my brightest smiles and softest words solely for Shi Liang, while maintaining a frosty demeanor towards others. Shi Liang basked in my affection, filled with self-satisfaction, while the gazes of those wealthy youths towards me began to shift. Once, while serving dishes, a charming young man inadvertently brushed his fingers against mine. I feigned alarm and withdrew my hand. A few days later, they began to entice Shi Liang into gambling establishments. This was an old tactic. Many girls had entered such places in this manner. Once inside, they would ensnare him in debt, compelling him to pawn his wife or concubines. Whenever Shi Liang ventured out to gamble, I would discreetly send him some wealth, wishing for his good fortune. He would return, elated by his winnings, boasting, Xian Yang, you have no idea how fortunate I was today. I found coins as soon as I stepped out, and I started making money the moment I sat at the table. Everyone who bet with me has profited. I gazed at him with admiration. Truly, my husband is remarkable. How fortunate am I to marry you? His laughter boomed, and he returned with gifts, promising that I would never suffer again. The following day, he hurriedly took his money and dashed back to the gambling den. I leaned against the door, watching until he was out of sight. With newfound wealth, Shi Liang began to change his appearance, draping himself in silks, adorned with jade, and exuding the scent of unfamiliar women's cosmetics. The neighborhood buzzed with gossip, claiming I was a woman of prosperity. After marrying me, a seemingly unremarkable man had suddenly risen. I remained unaffected, seated in my bath, channeling some of my fortune to ensure his success that day. Before long, I opened my eyes, having devoured his lifetime of vitality, wealth, and fortune. A warm current surged through my veins, awakening the hidden ancestral powers residing within me. Elation filled my heart. My previous suspicions had proven correct. An ancient bloodline surely held its legacy. I began to harness this power, attempting to draw energy into my body. The meager spiritual energy of the mortal realm surged through my meridians, purging countless impurities from my skin. Upon opening my eyes, the world around me seemed to shed its veil, revealing every detail in stark clarity. After cleansing the filth from my flesh and blood, my arms became as white as jade, faintly radiating light. This was hardly the appearance of a widow. I disposed of the dirty water and brewed a pot of herbal medicine. After my medicinal bath, my entire being was tinged with a sickly yellow hue. Gazing into the mirror, I appeared utterly haggard. I buried the dregs of the herbs, then set about preparing a meal. After a lengthy wait, someone finally knocked on my door. Is Lady Song home? Sure, Langjun has struck it rich at the gambling house, but, in a fit of joy, has unexpectedly passed away. My heart sank at the news, my entire being trembling. What? The messenger expressed deep sympathy. After all, a solitary woman, bereft of a husband and children yet possessing wealth, was akin to a tempting morsel, ripe for the taking. Such is the world. Women are merely considered a part of one's possessions. With a man, she is a man's property. Without one, she becomes a target for plunder. I suppressed my grief, my face pale, and went to identify the body, nearly fainting several times along the way. Everyone praised my profound loyalty, recounting my virtues and how I revered my husband. They spoke of how Shi Liang had prospered since marrying me, thus deeming me a fortunate woman. Yet, they lamented his misfortune, despite his illustrious family background. He had been abandoned, clearly unable to retain his blessings. Consequently, he could not withstand the sudden turn in fortune, having earned wealth only to perish in his moment of prosperity. I awakened to the crowd's attempts at consolation. After crying for a while, I reluctantly mustered the strength to hire someone to arrange my late husband's funeral. After the rituals, during the night of the vigil, someone stealthily entered my humble courtyard. I was murmuring Lady Yang's name before the altar when I caught sight of a shadow. Do not scream. The figure covered my mouth, speaking harshly, scream, and I'll strangle you. My entire body quivered, and I dared not utter a word. Yet, I quietly gathered a surge of spiritual energy. In the flickering candlelight, I discerned his face. The charming visage he wore by day now appeared as repugnant as a wolf at night. It was Liang Mu, one of the wealthy youths for whom I had ghostwritten. He gradually released his grip, noticing my tears but no intent to call for help, and softened his tone. Sister-in-law, please do not cry. I am merely enamored by your grace and cannot bear to see you, so young and mourning. My tears flowed uncontrollably. My husband lies before the altar. Are you not afraid he will come for your life? He sneered. What is Shi Liang to me? I would not hesitate to feed his bones to dogs, who would still wag their tails at me. Just because he can scribble a few words, he thinks himself grand. I fear him not in life, let alone in death. I stifled my sobs, concealing my scorn. Men often boast of their brotherhood, yet they never hesitate to brandish a knife against one another. He lowered his head, scrutinizing me in the candlelight, his admiration growing with every glance. Sister-in-law, you may not know, but from the first moment I saw you at the Shi household, I thought Shi Liang unworthy of you. I have long yearned for you. Yet you remain cold and indifferent towards me, showering only affection upon that scoundrel. What merits does he possess? You must not realize he has taken a courtesan outside, gifting her gold hairpins while forcing you to wear wooden ones. What use is such a man? I looked despondent. It was the temptations of those outside that led him astray. He promised to remain true to me. Liang Mu scoffed. I advise you to submit to me. Otherwise I shall report you to the authorities, claiming you intentionally seduced me and secretly poisoned Shi Liang. Just imagine how the court would rule. With that, he leaned closer, attempting to kiss me. I weakly resisted. You would have me betray my husband in the very hall of mourning, or bear the weight of a husband's murder. You profess to cherish me, yet when have you ever offered me a path to escape? Unable to break free, I pleaded desperately. If your heart truly holds affection for me, then wait until Shi Liang is laid to rest and come to claim me with honor and propriety. The force after channeling chi into my body was difficult to control. I had nearly failed to restrain it and sent him flying. Liang Mu remained oblivious, chuckling as he declared, "You've brought me such delight today. I shall surely wed you with great pomp and splendor." I lowered my voice and cried out. Shi Liang always prided himself on his noble lineage. Do you not wonder why he would marry someone of humble origins like me? Liang Mu halted his movements. I am the daughter of Song Yu, Vice Minister of Revenue. I was abducted at 13 and only recently managed to send word to my father. He will not acknowledge me openly, but if I were to die, do you suppose he would investigate? Tell me, are the schemes you've woven in this affair truly without flaw? Seeing his silence, I shifted my tone and added, yet if you were to marry me, you would gain the patronage of a vice minister as your father-in-law. Even if the Liang family intends to purchase an official post for you, having connections is always preferable to having none, is it not? With a blend of coercion and temptation, I finally swayed Liang Mu's heart. The legitimate wife of a merchant's son held little value, and he was not the family's eldest son. This transaction indeed promised profit. 19. Unlike the previous dynasty, our current era, due to the ravages of war and a sharp decline in population, does not impose mourning restrictions on marriage. After entering the Liang household, I discovered that Liang Mu already kept 8 concubines and 4 maidservants. The youngest was merely 13, the same age I was when I entered the Chunju pavilion. That young girl, named Shower, was a refugee from another region, sold into the Liang residence. It was said that earlier this year, Liang Mu had kicked her so severely that she lost a child. Yet, when she looked at him, her eyes sparkled with unmistakable adoration and admiration. I asked her, "Do you hold great affection for your husband?" She nodded fervently. "Why? Has he treated you kindly?" Her Mandarin was impure, tinged with an accent from some unknown place. "The young master is good to me. Though he strikes me last time, my stomach ached terribly from his kick. He ensures I am fed. At home, my father would beat me and withhold food, leaving me to drink cold water in the dead of night from hunger. The young master also knows many things. He can write and even paint. In our village, a boy named Dog Egg was called a literary star just for knowing how to write his name." Recalling Liang Mu's atrocious penmanship, I could not help but massage my temples. "Shall I teach you to read and write? Would you like to learn?" She shook her head in alarm. How could I be worthy of reading and writing? Such things are not meant for someone like me. Disappointed, I sighed and waved her away. In my youth, though my father did not forbid me from learning, my elder sister disdained scholarship, so he never engaged tutors or instructors for his daughters. After all, I was merely a concubine-born child. Shamelessly, I lingered near my legitimate brothers and cousins, borrowing their books and writing materials. I devised ways to enter the library, copying texts volume by volume. The sentiment that consumed me then was likely avarice. It was never enough, far from sufficient. It was this very insatiability that continues to benefit me to this day. Cast into the river empty-handed, I could take neither silver nor influence, but I could carry knowledge with me. The world preaches that greed is evil, and that contentment and frugality bring happiness. Yet I believe that the content remain trapped at the bottom of a well, while the greedy leap beyond their confines. So-called satisfaction with one's lot is merely the shepherd's expectation for his flock. How laughable it is when the sheep truly believe it. 20. After fully absorbing Shi Liang's fortune, I unlocked a new ability. Previously, I could only draw fortune from my husband. Now, it extended to his entire clan. Attempting to siphon the Liang family's luck on a large scale met with significant resistance. Fortune ebbs and flows like the tides. To completely drain an individual's fortune, one must act when their luck is waning. The same holds true for a family's fortune. This is to align with the momentum. Fate is uncertain, but fortune is shaped by human actions. Every deed influences one's own luck. Engaging in destructive behavior causes one's fortune to decline. Had Shi Liang maintained his integrity and avoided the trap, he would not have met his end so swiftly at my hands. 1 month after our marriage, Liang Mu took me to the vice minister's residence. The gatekeeper, old Ding, stared at me wide-eyed, as if he had seen a ghost. I smiled faintly. "Old Ding, please inform my father that Xianyang has returned to pay her respects." Old Ding hurried inside to report and soon emerged, sweating profusely, saying the master was not home and he dared not act on his own authority. Liang Mu was both disappointed and exhilarated, disheartened by the failed attempt, yet thrilled that he had indeed married an official's daughter. I, too, was pleased. My father, now aware of my survival, would surely lie awake, fearing I might tarnish his reputation. After much deliberation, he would have no choice but to strike first, eliminating both me and the Liang family behind me. What is the greatest joy in this world? None other than compelling your enemy to act on your behalf through an overt stratagem. 21. A prefect can destroy a family. A county magistrate can ruin a household. An official's assault on those beneath him is fatal. My father need not even appear personally. A vague hint from him would prompt numerous subordinates to alleviate his concerns. They need not go to extremes. Merely invoking an inspection pretext to detain the Liang family's goods and funds for a period would create a liquidity gap. In the process, petty officials, like flies drawn to blood, would swarm to extract their share through layers of exploitation. Soon, a hole appeared in the cloud of the Liang family's fortune. I tore it wider, absorbing daily and cultivating without cease. As my practice deepened, the speed at which I gathered spiritual energy through fortune accelerated. While the Liang family grew increasingly frantic, I broke through to the 4th level of chi refining. I could even employ simple spells. Restless, Liang Mu took me out and headed straight for the Song residence. I knew full well that this venture was a dragon's den and a tiger's lair. My father would surely be prepared to eradicate me, cutting the weeds at their roots. Inside the carriage, I dared not pause for a moment, frantically using spiritual energy to impact all my meridians and gathering chi with the absorbed fortune. In the unseen space above, a massive vortex formed over my head, drawing in the Liang family's fortune from all directions. The 5th level of chi refining shattered. The aura above Liang Mu's head grew faint. A spirited horse galloping wildly through the streets recklessly charged, trampling Liang Mu after he was thrown from the carriage. His ribs were instantly crushed, and he lay in the road, vomiting blood, with no one daring to seek justice. Husband! I stumbled out of the carriage and threw myself over Liang Mu, weeping piteously. The effeminate youth on horseback curled his lip in disdain. If he's dead, he's dead. Why weep? His gaze fell upon me. The spiritual energy, still lingering after my breakthrough, captivated him. As if enchanted, he dismounted and approached. Such beauty! Yet bound to a feeble invalid, like a pearl lost in the dust. What a pity! Should you come with me? I would ensure you learn what it means to be with a true, formidable man. 22. I had finally hooked a big fish. Mu Qi, the youngest legitimate son of the Duke of Support. The Duke of Support was a staunch supporter of the Emperor. His eldest daughter was consortly in the rear palace, and he commanded tens of thousands of troops. He was a political rival of the Qi family. This time, I would have to give Qi Changlan a generous present. I mused. With Mu Qi's status, he would never marry me. I was taken into his residence as his 5th concubine. To cover up his act of trampling a man to death in the street, the Liang family was accused of colluding with bandits to sell stolen goods, resulting in their extermination and the confiscation of their wealth, which the Mu family swallowed whole. Mu Qi had a violent temperament. According to servants' gossip, he had cruelly killed cats and dogs as a child. As he grew older, it was not uncommon for him to torture and kill maids and servants. His concubines feared him deeply. A single glare from him would send them trembling. On the night I entered his household, I knelt tearfully and recounted how Liang Mu had deliberately lured my husband Shirl Yang into gambling dens, caused his death, and then forcibly seized his wife. With beseeching eyes, I said, "You, my lord, have rescued me from suffering, a chivalrous hero saving the distressed. I could never repay your great kindness, even if I were to knot grass or hold a bit in my mouth." Mu Qi stood frozen, others all fear and dread me. Yet you alone regard me as a chivalrous hero? I met his gaze resolutely, declaring with unwavering conviction, I care not for the slander of others. In my eyes, my lord is indeed a true pillar of righteousness, 100 times superior to that Liang fellow. Today, this humble servant is honored to attend to you, and I beg for your tenderness. 23. My words sent Mu Qi into raptures, and for several consecutive nights, he remained in my chambers. Seizing upon his elated mood, I entreated him to rescue Liang Mu's chambermaid, Chaoer, and assign her to me as a handmaid. The day Chaoer was liberated, she knelt before me disheveled and trembling. Thank you, madam, for saving my life. Chaoer is not skilled with words, but henceforth I shall do whatever you bid me. I gently patted her head and instructed others to prepare a meal for her. Just as she had once pledged her devotion to Liang Mu for providing her with sustenance, she would now undoubtedly transfer that loyalty to me for the same reason. Moreover, her voluntary refusal to pursue literacy indicated a nature inclined toward obedience. While such individuals may lack grand ambition, they make ideal subordinates. 24. Muchi had previously been married, but his wife passed away 2 years prior. According to rumors Chower gathered, the lady suffered abuse from Muchi during her pregnancy and ultimately died in childbirth. Her father, despite holding a high official position, showed little concern for his daughter's plight and still frequently invited Muchi for drinks. This reminded me of my own kind and benevolent father. Men could be remarkably petty at times, yet display incomprehensible magnanimity at others. Though outsiders labeled Muchi as tyrannical, I perceived not an innate brutality, but rather a fragile disposition. His deliberate acts of cruelty stemmed from an inability to withstand the slightest provocation, causing him to erupt in fury over trivial matters. Unable to alleviate the agitation brought by setbacks, he redirected it toward vulnerable creatures and servants. This facade of aggression concealed a psyche perpetually living in insecurity, much like small dogs that often bark ferociously to mask their vulnerability. Having deciphered his nature, I tamed him as one would a canine. Whenever he exhibited behavior I desired, I would cradle his head and soothe his restless spirit with my spiritual energy. He grew increasingly relaxed and dependent on me in my presence, inadvertently divulging valuable information through casual conversation. Unaware of the implications, he shared seemingly insignificant anecdotes, such as, "My second uncle came into a windfall last month and purchased an ancient painting worth thousands of taels without a second thought." Yet from these fragments, I pieced together crucial intelligence: the Mu clan's illicit land annexation, collusion with local officials, and private hoarding of iron mines. The corruption of the second branch of the Assistant Duke's household within the Ministry of Works, substituting inferior materials in dam construction. I meticulously recorded these details on slips of paper, concealing them in my sleeves. Not long after, Muchi took me to a banquet. Not being a lady of noble birth, I was ineligible for the women's seating and had to accompany him among the male guests. Amid the revelry of young aristocrats, one marquier even ventured to harass me. Before Muchi could respond, a stern voice intervened. I advised the heir to mind his conduct. It was Chi Changlan. He turned, his profound gaze locking intently onto me. The once youthful general had matured into a rugged man. Years of campaigning abroad had coarsened him, his complexion darkened, his handsome features now rough-hewn, his eyes no longer clear but sharp as an eagle's. "My beloved concubine requires no concern from the general," Muchi retorted displeasedly, pulling me into his embrace. Chi Changlan's expression darkened. 25. While excusing myself to freshen up, a maid slipped a note into my hand, summoning me to the bamboo grove. Expecting someone else, I was taken aback to find Chi Changlan awaiting me. His stature loomed like a mountain, his fingers thick and calloused. Yet these coarse hands now gripped mine with impropriety. "Ah, Xian, where have you been all these years? Why are you without me wastrel?" "You ask me this, to what end?" I inquired. "To rekindle our past?" "Aye," he faltered. "What's done is done. Words are futile now." I closed my eyes, shook my head, freed my hand with effort, and turned to leave. "I am no longer the Xianyang of yore, nor are you the Chi Changlan of the past. We cannot return." He hastily blocked my path. "Don't go. When I visited the Song residence, your uncle merely said you had gone to the estate to recuperate. Later, when I inquired again, the household claimed you had succumbed to prolonged illness. If you are not dead, why did you not return?" "Ah, Xian, all these years, I have missed you dearly." "Miss me?" I touched my cheek. The memory of his pained expression upon seeing me remained vivid. Now, with my blemish gone and my beauty enhanced through cultivation, he pursued me once more. Summoning my emotions, I covered my face and wept. "Changlan, I have missed you too. All these years, not a moment passed without thoughts of you. My father cast me into the water, and I struggled to survive, forced to submit to one man after another. But in my heart, you alone are my true husband. Now you are to wed the princess, and I am another's concubine. Had I any sense of shame, I ought to distance myself from you. What we just did was already improper. If the princess learns of it, proud as she is, how could she endure such betrayal?" His eyes filled with anguish as he embraced my slender shoulders from behind. "Fear not. The princess is principled and empathizes with women suffering. Given your hardships, she will surely understand." Before I could respond, a young maid emerged from the bamboo grove. "So, Chi Changlan, you dare rendezvous here. How can you face our princess? Behind her, a woman in red, wielding a whip, advanced like a blazing fire. Qi Changlan's face paled instantly. Your Highness, he exclaimed. The princess, expressionless, cracked her whip near his feet. Leave her and be gone. Shielding me, Qi Changlan pleaded, Your Highness. Please understand. Shen Yang was innocently embroiled in our betrothal and narrowly escaped death. If you possess any compassion, you would not harm her. Truth be told. He appeared rather manly in that protective stance. Qi Changlan, in your eyes, am I so merciless as to slaughter the innocent? The princess scoffed. She is a Mu concubine. Your dalliance here, while the Mu may not touch you, eliminating her would be effortless for them. Are you aiding her or sealing her fate? As Qi Changlan attempted to argue, she glared at him. Leave now. Should young Mu arrive, I will handle it. Hesitating, he glanced between me and the princess before ultimately departing. I sighed. Fortunately, I had not relied on him. Once he was gone, the princess approached and lifted my chin with her whip. After all these years, you truly reappear before me. The forced tilt of my head was uncomfortable. I brushed the whip aside and offered a faint smile. Indeed. Yet I wonder if the wager your highness made back then still holds? 26. I first encountered the princess at the Spring Residence Pavilion. At the time, Inyang had just gained renown for the lyrics and melodies I provided, attracting a refined young gentleman who specifically requested her presence. The young master bestowed generous rewards, but after a brief exchange with Inyang, expressed disappointment. You are not the true author, he stated decisively. The beardless attendant behind him shrilly rebuked. A lowly courtesan dares deceive my master? With swift efficiency, he forced Inyang to her knees. Terrified, Inyang wept bitterly, repeatedly calling my name. I emerged from the inner chamber and spoke respectfully. I beg your highness's forgiveness for my audacity. I dare not deceive you. The person you seek may very well be this humble servant. Raising my gaze, I immediately discerned that this was no gentleman, but unmistakably a woman. A woman of such age, accompanied by palace eunuchs, clad in fabric that appeared modest yet was in fact the unscented brocade tribute from last year. Her identity could be none other than the very princess who had stolen my betrothed and cast me into the river. Had she come today for me? A chill settled in my heart. With a wave of her hand, the princess dismissed the eunuch and Yin Yang. I observed her carefully, noting her lack of reaction to the mole on my face, and then inquired, Why has your highness come to see me? She replied with solemnity, I thirst for talent. In your poetry, I heard a voice of discontent and had expected to meet one with grand ambitions. Her eyes swept over my frail frame, shaking her head in evident disappointment. A pity. What is a pity? I asked. It is a pity that despite your intellect, you lack fortitude. With your gifts alone, you could have attracted patrons to secure your freedom, yet you remain sequestered in this house of pleasure, allowing your talents to wither, even willingly surrendering your verses to courtesans. It is clear you are not the one I seek. I have disturbed you unnecessarily. I take my leave. In those few words, I concluded that the princess diverged greatly from my prior assumptions. There must be deeper intricacies behind this betrothal. As she rose to depart, I calmly presented my lore. Your Highness, for whom do you seek talent? For the imperial family? The Qi family? The 14th prince? Or for yourself? She turned back, startled. What did you say? 27. During my days as Qi Changlan's fiancé, I often beheld the aura above his head. Unlike others, his radiance shimmered with golden light, veiled in mist. And faint dragon roars echoed within, a sign of the dormant dragon's breath. This indicated that Qi Changlan held the potential to ascend the throne one day. Those bearing such destiny cannot be easily altered, even with my lineage as a fate weaver. To interfere would invite karmic retribution and calamity. Yet the princess, born of royalty and betrothed to Qi Changlan, was fated to have her realm usurped by him. If a lethal weapon were to be crafted for Qi Changlan, who could be more fitting than the princess herself? I surmised there was none. Thus, I posed calmly, might I ask if your highness aspires to the throne? She frowned and rebuked sharply, how dare you? Do you not know that such words warrant the execution of your entire clan? I smiled slyly. If my father could accompany me in death, it would suit me perfectly. Yet I wonder how His Majesty and the other princes would regard your highness upon hearing this. She glared at me darkly as I returned her gaze with a serene smile. After a long silence, she declared, I harbor no ambition for the throne. nor any desire to emulate the female sovereigns of former dynasties. The natural order must not be disrupted. Speak no more of this. I replied leisurely. Does your highness understand why men are esteemed and women demeaned in this world? Why are women considered inferior? The princess grew increasingly displeased. With talents rivaling any man's. Why do you debase yourself? I have never believed women to be inferior. I shook my head. Your highness is mistaken. Women are indeed inferior. Otherwise, why do only men become generals and ministers? Why do only men ascend to the supreme position? Women may excel in weaving, embroidery, reading, and writing. Yet they remain subject to others' wills. Even their earnings are seized by fathers or husbands. In this regard, how do women differ from plow oxen? Merely more expensive. The princess's expression tightened with restraint. I continued, throughout history, it is princesses who are sent to forge alliances through marriage. A princess of a former dynasty once said that as beneficiaries of the people's labor, princesses ought to consider the populace's welfare. But princes and nobles also reap such benefits. Why are they exempt from similar sacrifices? Very well, assuming women are inferior, tell me in what way. The princess drew a long whip from her sleeve, flicked it gracefully, and hooked a cup from the table into her hand. I have trained in martial arts since childhood, mastering blades, swords, whips, archery, and spears. This proves that with diligent practice, a woman's physique need not be inferior to a man's. I nodded. Naturally. Having studied military strategy and history since youth, I see no deficiency in my literary prowess compared to men. Then where does the inferiority lie? She pressed. In two aspects, lack of ruthlessness and lack of greed. I murmured, that is all. The princess's eyes widened in astonishment. When two meet on a narrow path, one armed with a blade, the other offering their neck, who prevails? Who becomes the master and who the slave? Men are inherently predatory, women are inherently survivors. Predation is evil. Mere survival is good. Yet women's excessive benevolence is their transgression, for such kindness often serves as a veil to deceive the masses. If two beasts stood before you, one ferocious, driven to frenzy by hunger and injury, the other docile, enduring starvation and wounds, passively resting with closed eyes, to which would you offer a single piece of meat? If you were starving and had to slay one for sustenance, which would you choose? The princess fell silent, lost in thought. Benevolence is a sin, and lack of greed a greater one. Lust for power is the world's most precious asset. Had our dynasty's founding emperor been content with a single commandery or county, would we possess this vast empire today? I prostrated myself in a deep bow. Your highness, with your courage and wisdom, born into royalty and possessing the capability to contend for the throne, yet claiming no such ambition, this is a grave calamity. 28. My words left the princess visibly unsettled. After a prolonged silence, she asked, with such intellect and resolve, why do you not leave the spring residence pavilion? I shook my head. It is not that I cannot, but that I will not. In truth, I seek my future husband here. Indeed? The princess showed interest. I revealed my origins plainly. Your highness may not know, but my ancestors were immortals. To emulate their cultivation, I must seek several husbands as vessels. The princess laughed incredulously. You believe such absurd tales? Absolutely, I affirmed earnestly. Where a future sovereign emerges, extraordinary individuals descend to assist the imperial star. I am that extraordinary aid for you, your highness. I winked at her. If my words today are difficult to accept, perhaps we might place a wager. A wager? Yes. In a few years, I shall ascend through ambition and greed, rising from an anonymous maid in the spring residence pavilion to appear formally in the imperial court before you. Then, I implore you to ponder deeply whether you will contend for the throne. 29. And now, have you appeared before me? The princess, in crimson robes and dark tresses, smiled at me. I shook my head. Not yet. Today is merely a coincidence. I had not imagined you to be that Song Xinyang. Mentioning this, the princess hesitated. Regarding the events of that year, I cut in. My father alone was responsible for casting me into the river. I do not blame your highness. A superior's guilt can be both a boon and a death warrant. If my presence continually pricked her conscience, I would inevitably become a target for elimination. I met her gaze, ensuring she believed my words were sincere. My father used my aunt's funeral arrangements to threaten me, well aware of my talents and volatile nature. He feared that, should I rise to prominence, I might seek vengeance for my aunt's sake, hence his haste to eliminate me. I added candidly, moreover. There must be hidden complexities in this betrothal, am I correct? The princess stared at me intently, then suddenly smiled. You are indeed astute. However, that Moussaillon is no worthy match. You would do well to make other plans promptly. Has your highness forgotten my previous words? I remarked with an enigmatic smile, slipping the Mou family intelligence into her hand. Perhaps your highness could lend me assistance in winning this wager. Returning to Muqi's side, he inquired with evident displeasure. What took you so long? I adopted a mortified expression, murmuring softly, I shall explain upon our return. I feared your displeasure. His furrowed brow relaxed at this. I need not your explanation to know that wretched Chichonglon has been pestering you again, has he not? I nodded with feigned shame and indignation. An informant claimed to witness your clandestine meeting with that scoundrel Chichonglon from afar. How could I believe such nonsense? Clearly, he was harassing you. His implication was clear. Had I attempted concealment, he would have suspected illicit relations between us. Inwardly, I breathed a sigh of relief. The Mou family's eldest daughter, consortly, had borne the emperor a son who frequently clashed with the 14th prince, the uterine brother of the Grand Princess. Now possessing leverage against the Mou family, the Grand Princess would naturally exploit it, though more likely by discreetly leaking information to the chief family while maintaining her own position. Indeed, before long, seemingly neutral court officials began impeaching the Duke of Auxiliary State. With deliberate orchestration, dissenting voices flooded the court, unanimously defending the Duke's loyalty and demanding severe punishment for those spreading defamation, lest loyal ministers be disheartened. The court abhorred factionalism, and this unified defense of the Duke inevitably alarmed the emperor. Enraged, he ordered not merely an investigation, but an exhaustive one. All who pleaded for leniency were harshly punished. Consortly, accompanied by the 16th prince, sought imperial mercy but was denied audience and placed under house arrest. As for my father, who had been uneasy since learning his vengeful daughter had entangled herself with the Duke's household, he seized this opportunity to viciously attack. The once flourishing Duke's residence now descended into chaos for the first time, enveloped in gloom and despair. Muqi's mother, distraught, turned to daily prayers and divine supplication. It was then the Taoist priestess arrived, demonstrating extraordinary abilities, conjuring water from emptiness and kindling flames between her fingers. She distinguished herself from mere tricksters. Her water proved refreshingly sweet, revitalizing all who tasted it. The household hailed her as a celestial being. She proclaimed the family destined to face this tribulation. Overcoming it would lead to prosperity, while failure meant utter ruin. The Duchess urgently inquired how to prevail. Consulting hexagrams, the priestess performed rituals before indicating my courtyard. She declared the rabbit zodiac woman residing there possessed an auspicious fate. Were a direct male descendant to marry her, the household would flourish and overcome adversity. As the only rabbit zodiac woman present, I became the designated solution. With Muqi's notorious reputation and rumors of his first wife's demise, finding a successor spouse had proven difficult. Elevating my status served their purposes. Should I prove beneficial, I could be discarded later. If not, I would share the family's doomed fate. In desperation, the Duchess consulted the matriarch and enrolled me in the clan registry, formally installing me in the ancestral hall. The moment the name song entered the genealogy, I perceived the illustrious family's precarious fortune, like a wounded behemoth on its last breath, inviting predation. And I, without compunction, accepted the offering. After generously rewarding the priestess, I voraciously absorbed the Duke's residual fortune. Impeachments surfaced incessantly like buoys, one disastrous report following another, as if the mansion had been thoroughly eroded from within. The household plunged into panic, with several young wives' families urging divorce and repatriation. Meanwhile, nourished by spiritual energy and fortune, I grew radiant daily, my skin glowing with divine luminosity. When the Duke's luck nearly depleted, I donned coarse hemp garments and a white headscarf to strike the petition drum. According to law, commoners accusing officials received 50 strokes, while wives accusing husbands endured the nail board. Shielding myself with spiritual power while feigning agony, I endured the rust-stained nail board. Before the gathered populace, blood-drenched and resolute, I denounced Muqi, the Duke's youngest son, for trampling my husband to death and abducting me. To conceal the crime, the Mou family had fabricated charges to exterminate the wealthy Liang merchant clan. The Mu family's crude methods and recent timing made investigation straightforward. The Court of Judicial Review soon uncovered the truth. The nail board's notorious rustiness and fatal fevers made wifely accusations exceedingly rare, yet I became the exception. Having endured humiliation by consorting with my husband's killer, I now sought vengeance through the nail board. This legendary tale spread rapidly through streets and alleys, moving commoners to praise my steadfast virtue and extraordinary courage. I became paragon of constancy, my story adapted into operas and novels. How peculiar this world, where virtuous women meet tragic ends, while a ruthless woman like me gains renown as a model of chastity and loyalty. When the Emperor summoned me, I drained the Duke's final vestiges of fortune. Spiritual energy shimmered around me, triple blossoms faintly crowning my head. To enhance the celestial illusion, I draped myself in ethereal feathered robes visible only to the Emperor. Aging emperors inevitably crave immortality, their power-lust breeding desires for eternal reign. As anticipated, the Emperor marveled at the sight. Feathered raiment, triple blossoms gathering above, 5 energies converging. This woman is a goddess. Feigning ignorance, I prompted him to summon his most trusted court sorcerer to examine my destiny. The sorcerer started upon seeing me. Your Majesty, she transcends mortal dust. Observing that only he and the sorcerer could perceive these wonders, the Emperor grew convinced. After divination, the sorcerer added, this immortal descended to endure tribulations, hence her troubled fate. The Emperor repeatedly agreed. The sorcerer continued, her trials concluded, she should safeguard our dynasty's fortune, yet murderous stars and bloodshed loom about her. The startled Emperor demanded explanation. The sorcerer responded, pray tell, immortal, did you not face a mortal crisis at 13? I confirmed. Precisely. The instigator remains intent on harm. Unless eliminated, your safety remains uncertain. Your Majesty, the aged Emperor inquired, Goddess, reveal what nearly caused your demise at 13. I bit my lip, eyes downcast, trembling. I dare not speak, Your Majesty. Enraged, he demanded, why not? Father, I know why. The Grand Princess's voice interjected. I turned to see her in fiery red robes, vibrant as pomegranate blossoms. This is the second Miss Song formerly betrothed to Qi Chonglan. When you consulted Song Yu about annulling the engagement, unwilling parties would have been excused, with alternate arrangements made for Miss Song. Yet the madman attempted filicide, later blaming Your Majesty and me. The Grand Princess's eyes flashed with indignation. For years I've endured insinuations that I failed to steal another's betrothed and resorted to murder. After exhaustive investigation, I uncovered the truth. Doubtless, Lady Song remains silent from filial piety, unwilling to accuse her own father. Tears streamed down my face as I nearly succumbed to overwhelming sorrow. The Emperor erupted in fury. Song Yu, how dare you commit such an abominable act against the immortal maiden, even exploiting our name? His Majesty prized his reputation above all. Even if he had subtly suggested this course, he would never admit it. Now, seizing the opportunity to shift blame, he conveniently cast all culpability upon my father to avoid the karmic consequences of harming a celestial being. The princess and I exchanged a fleeting glance across the room before averting our eyes. During that near-drowning incident years ago, I had vowed to make my father and Qi Chonglan regret their actions. With my father now dealt with, only Qi Chonglan remained. 33. I was welcomed into the palace under the title of Immortal Maiden. The Emperor bestowed upon me a residence in the capital, granting me freedom to traverse both the palace grounds and the city beyond. The entire court treated me with utmost reverence, and even the imperial consorts dared not provoke me. Taking a sip of tea, I smiled at the princess and inquired, Does your highness believe me now? She bowed deeply before me. I implore your assistance, master. As I helped her rise, I demurred. There is no need for such formality, your highness. She insisted, you have eliminated my most formidable adversary. No gratitude could suffice. With Consort Li and her 16th prince now fallen from favor, and the Duke of Fugua's household collapsed, they pose no further threat. Yet I smiled faintly. Your highness, your true nemesis lies not within the inner chambers, but amidst the imperial court. After a prolonged silence, she ventured, Are you referring to Qi Chonglan? I affirmed solemnly, precisely. She fell silent once more. Does your highness harbor affection for Qi Chonglan? The princess nodded. There remains some sentiment. His rescue of me at the outskirts of the capital was genuine. However, My father feared the Qi family's growing influence and sought to neutralize Qi Changlan through a marriage alliance. Shortly after our betrothal, rebellions erupted in the provinces, compounded by the southern region's refusal to submit, forcing him to return to the battlefield. Our wedding was repeatedly postponed. Observing her troubled countenance, I spoke gently. The intricacies of affection are indeed difficult to fathom. Allow me to share some tales with your highness. My ancestral lineage descends from celestial beings known as fate-steering maidens. Legend tells they cultivated dual paths of destiny, born with the ability to transfer and share fortunes through matrimonial bonds. At minor attainment, they could alter others' fates and reverse fortunes. At the pinnacle, they could even suppress the destiny of entire nations or sections. Perhaps this power proved too formidable, inviting celestial punishment that constrained them through emotional attachments. Thus, generation after generation of fate-steering maidens perished for love. I continued, consider one celestial maiden who, fearing her partner might fail the thunder tribulation, transferred her own fortune to him. Thereafter, she became plagued by misfortune, not only failing her own tribulation but triggering the 5 decays of mortality, aging into sickness and death. Her partner, however, transcended unscathed and ascended to immortality, shedding but a single tear for her departure. The princess remarked, "What use is a tear when the person has perished?" I smiled wryly. Indeed. Then there is my great-grandmother, whose partner cherished another woman, a union she had forced. Throughout their marriage, though neglected, she silently diverted calamities from him by channeling his misfortunes through her own destiny. Consequently, he achieved unparalleled success and renown, taking several concubines resembling his beloved. My great-grandmother, weakened after childbirth, could no longer bear her partner's karmic burdens and passed away. Only upon hearing her maid's lamentations did he comprehend her profound devotion, filled with belated remorse. He spent his days clutching her portrait in mourning, neglecting all affairs, until my infant grandmother was cast into wilderness by a resentful concubine. Fortunately, a magistrate and his wife en route to their post rescued and raised her, preserving our bloodline. The princess listened, enthralled. Do fate-steering maidens truly exist? I vowed earnestly. They do. My mother and grandmother were said to bring prosperity to their husbands. I should have inherited this trait, but my near drowning transformed my destiny into an ill-fated one, resulting in the demise of multiple husbands. The princess chided me with a glance. Many women in our dynasty fabricate tales of phoenix destinies or blessed fortunes to secure noble marriages. Spare me your fabrications. I laughed lightly. You see through me, your highness. Then let me speak of mortal affairs. At the spring residence pavilion dwelled a woman named Inyang, whom you have met. Naive and simple-minded. She heard of a songstress who supported an impoverished scholar, later redeemed by him to enjoy wealth and honor. Inspired, Inyang patronized over a dozen struggling scholars. How many returned to repay her, your highness? The princess shook her head. I suspect none. Exactly so. Not only did none return, but 4 or 5 exhausted her funds and returned demanding more, until the brothel guards drove them out. Later, deceived by sweet promises from a man who claimed to make her a noble wife, she lost all her silver and, destitute, took her own life. This woman was among the rare few who showed me kindness. I resolved then that if ever people addressed me not as Madame Song but by personal name, I would be called Song Xianin. Firstly, to remind myself never to trust men's promises lightly. Secondly, to leave some trace of Inyang's brief passage through this world. I comprehend the meaning of Xianin now, the princess declared, rising to bow. Women may cherish affection, but never at the cost of self-destruction. One's own well-being must remain paramount. As I assisted her up, I returned the bow. Your wisdom illuminates, my liege. 34. The dire consequences of the Fuguo Duke's second household embezzling Ministry of Works funds finally manifested. The Yellow and Huai rivers flooded successively, breaching their banks and displacing countless commoners. Some refugees headed north, while others pledged allegiance to the southern pretender. The emperor, enraged, momentarily lost consciousness. Upon reviving, he immediately decreed the execution of the remaining Mu family members to appease public outrage, then dispatched grain and silver for disaster relief. Thereafter, His Majesty's health declined daily. Having previously beseeched the princess to rescue Muchi's concubines and maidservants, temporarily housed in my bestowed residence due to their homelessness, I overheard two of them cursing me on Muchi's execution day. Both had suffered his abuse. I observed them with detached amusement. What are you murmuring? One named Yushu, eyes red-rimmed, spat. He may have been vile. But he never wronged you, did he? Was he not exceedingly kind to you? Another, Chioha, initially hesitant, finally burst out resentfully. He adored you so deeply after having you. He never glanced at us again. Why did you treat him thus? Muchi's appearance was indeed striking, delicately handsome yet tinged with gloom, enough to delude these foolish women. I smiled faintly, then consider me his betrayer. I would rather live as his betrayer than die as his faithful. I instructed Chower to assemble the remaining women in the courtyard. Let any who pity Muchi or scorn my treachery step forward. After exchanging uncertain glances, two more emerged. Chower berated them, ungrateful wretches. That scoundrel Mu tormented you beyond recognition. Were it not for Madam's compassion, you'd be dead somewhere. How dare you repay kindness with malice? Yushu retorted, if I'm ungrateful, what does that make her? Elevating a mere merchant's wife to formal consort, how did the Duke's household wrong her? Had she not testified, the household would still be intact. We wouldn't be left destitute and unprotected. First she removes our pillar of support, then tosses us scraps like feeding stray dogs. Is this her benevolence? I applauded softly, splendid. I never anticipated such loyalty to the Duke's household. By coincidence, Muchi met his end today, leaving no intact corpse. If your devotion to him were genuine, you surely couldn't bear to see him descend to the underworld headless. Later I shall send word to the execution grounds to deliver Muchi's remains. With your exquisite needlework, you may stitch his head back on, a final act of devotion. Upon hearing this, all present stood dumbfounded, speechless. When the corpse arrived, I allocated a chamber equipped with needles, thread, and hot water, confining these 4 devoted women with their ice-cold master. Upon my initial inspection, one immediately vomited profusely and pounded the door begging release. Why would I acquiesce? Naturally. She continued her task. The remaining 3 persevered, but upon inserting the first stitch, they began weeping and retching simultaneously. After half an hour with no progress, I entered and remarked with a light laugh, it appears your affections extend only this far. They wept too violently to respond, sparing no breath for rebuttal. This incident left me thoroughly disillusioned. I instructed Chower to distribute funds to the remaining women and arrange proper lodgings for them. As for those tasked with cranial reconstruction, let them seek alternative livelihoods. When the princess learned of this, she teased, I never perceived Xianyin as particularly tender-hearted. I shook my head. This isn't tenderness, I simply act according to what pleases me. When actions bring joy, I pursue them. When they breed irritation, I desist. You remain too soft-hearted. The princess lamented with frustration. When others betray you, even without anger, you must impose severe consequences. Otherwise, your subordinates will perceive treachery as cost-free. Should that occur, your position becomes precarious. Her words revealed the princess's growing imperial demeanor. After draining the Duke's household fortunes, I acquired a new ability, consuming luck to perceive spiritual auras. Using this sight, I observed a wisp of dragon's breath swirling within her fortune. 35. Disaster relief silver diminished with each administrative layer until scarcely anything reached the commoners. Distributed grain, adulterated with moldy rice, caused widespread fatal diarrhea. Displaced masses either became mountain bandits or stormed government granaries, executing magistrates and raising rebellion banners. Though Qi Changlan was the family's sole heir, his valorous adopted brothers proved formidable warriors, leading troops against rebels while the aging emperor withheld weapons and provisions. I knew Qi Changlan secretly maintained commercial enterprises that funded his army. Thus the Qi forces demonstrated absolute loyalty, heeding only Qi commands. My investigations revealed Qi Changlan's maternal family, outwardly respectable, maintained intricate southern connections. Surveying the landscape, I recognized the Qi household had matured into a formidable force. Though the empire teetered on collapse, a slender thread of hope remained. 36. The old emperor fathered nearly 20 sons, though only teenagers survived. Mature princes had perished years earlier, some compelled to rebellion, others conspiring against the throne, including 2 crown princes. Since the emperor's decline, I anticipated impending turmoil. When the 14th prince, the princess's brother, awoke from poisoning an imbecile. The princess fell gravely ill. Consortly, confined to the cold palace, conspired with the 16th prince to besiege the imperial palace, assassinate the emperor, and stage a coup. The 16th prince executed all brothers except the mindless 14th, then ordered me bound and dismembered to appease his cousin Muchi's spirit. Yet the duke's household fortune had expired. General Sukai, feigning allegiance, beheaded the 16th prince and denounced the Mu family for deceiving troops about capital emergencies. Claiming remorse for unwittingly aiding traitors, he proclaimed loyalty to the 14th prince. Thus the imbecile prince ascended the throne. With court purges complete, Sukai naturally assumed control as the palace's true master. 37. These events unfolded rapidly while Qi Changlan and his brothers suppressed rebellions abroad. Learning of the capital's situation, the Qi forces raised, cleansing the court banners, marching 20,000 troops to execute Sukai and rescue the princess and new emperor. An ingenious maneuver, the princess remarked while capturing my white pieces. He not only extricates himself, but claims moral justification. I placed my stone deliberately. Even I, a mere woman, understood to veil patricide with virtue, how much more so the Qi old foxes. Nothing in this world succeeds without proper justification. The gravest transgressions require the noblest disguises. Therefore, when your highness ascends the throne, investigate corruption and rebellion thoroughly. Perhaps those appearing most aggrieved participated fully, while only the scapegoat remains innocent. Indeed, the princess smiled bitterly. Who would imagine I poisoned my own brother? I smiled faintly. I never anticipated your highness could sacrifice your own flesh and blood. Had I not acted, he would be dead already, she stated impassively. Your highness seems troubled lately. I tapped the chessboard. Share your concerns that I might alleviate them. After silence, the princess confessed. Trained in martial arts since childhood, I drilled with my uncle at the frontier for years. Without these skills, I couldn't have saved my father during the autumn hunt and earned my title. Though my maternal family commands hundreds of thousands of border troops, they cannot mobilize freely with barbarians threatening. Despite my capabilities, I cannot legitimately seize the throne and earn men's respect. Now Sukai rebels while Qi Changlan marches north. Yet I wait passively. Until he captures the capital, I marry him, and only then scheme for power. Thus I'll be criticized like former empresses, deemed incompetent. Climbing the throne through masculine support. Xianin, this bitterness consumes me. I rose solemnly, regarding her gravely. Your highness errs in this thinking. Consider the legendary General Luo Sui. Her magnificent triumphs ended in execution. She died a general, nothing more. Why seek men's approval? Do you struggle for pride or supreme power? For the empire or masculine validation? If you rule the world, what matter us censure? What matter accusations of relying on men? Proving your strength reveals inner inadequacy. The strong feign weakness, the weak flaunt power. Crabs hide in shells, porcupines brandish quills, vipers bare fangs, all posturing defenses for their vulnerability. But tigers and bears? Should livestock challenge them, they consider it feast. Princess, will you be viper or bear? The princess stared momentarily before bursting into laughter, tapping my forehead. Song Sinin. Only you comprehend my heart. I smiled. Upon reflection, what significance lies in relying on men? Throughout the annals of history, there have been emperors who rose to prominence through the support of their wives and fathers-in-law. Thus, it is not uncommon for both men and women to rely on each other. Why, then, is it that only the female emperor faces scrutiny? The world has closed off the avenues for women to ascend, forbidding us from education, governance, and military command, relegating us solely to the role of marriage. Now, even when women marry for profit, they are met with censure. On what grounds? Clearly, men benefit far more from such unions. Consider my own situation. I have married multiple men to arrive at my current position. I harbor no shame. Men are often lustful and selfish. Countless women, after marriage, find themselves bereft of benefits, only to be left to suffer. Is it not a skill to acquire wealth and power from cunning men? After that day, the princess became notably more subdued. Once strong-willed, she now willingly learned from me, demonstrating vulnerability at opportune moments. I could not discern what she had said, but Sukai was completely charmed by her, showing no inclination to take out his frustration on Qi Changlan. Yet, in an effort to humiliate Qi Changlan, he proposed to marry the princess. It would be a pity for the princess, with her exceptional grace, to marry that young scion of the Qi family. I, Su, am willing to offer a national engagement. With the Qi army close at hand, Su Kai appeared unfazed, as the 2,000 troops seemed insignificant in his eyes. Should the princess marry him? He could devise a means to summon her maternal clan's hundreds of thousands of border troops back to the capital. His proclamations of admiration for her beauty were veiled calculations. Su Kai is a rebel. Should the princess wed him, it would compromise her integrity. Furthermore, becoming Qi Changlan's empress would present far greater challenges, and her ascent to the throne would be fraught with obstacles. The princess feigned cordiality towards him but discreetly sought my counsel. I remained unperturbed. There exists a method to resolve our current predicament. I merely wonder if the princess would be amenable? She lifted her gaze. What is this method? Let His Majesty take me as his empress, I stated calmly. The 14th prince already had an unwed fiancée, but they had yet to marry. Now, with him incapacitated and reduced to a puppet, that lady would likely be unwilling to wed. The princess regarded me with confusion. This matter seems too simple, but how will your marriage to my brother assist me? Do you recall the ancestral tales I once shared with you? In this time of national decline, harnessing the fate of the nation to expedite its demise is a natural course of action. Such an opportunity to align with destiny and cultivate national fortune is one I cannot afford to overlook. The princess's mind raced, and she suddenly gasped. You mean the one who commands fate? Precisely. I extended my hand, delicate and fair, flawless in its beauty. Almost immediately, a flame flickered to life in my palm. As the fire extinguished, water surged forth. All of my husbands have perished after I absorbed their fortunes. I am on the verge of establishing a foundation, becoming a true cultivator. Should His Majesty marry me, I would be able to draw upon the national fortune. Once the fortune of this dynasty is exhausted, Qi Changlan will undoubtedly sweep through the capital like a tidal wave. What could Su Kai possibly fear then? Moreover, a swift military action would not be advantageous for the Qi family. They would be unable to consolidate their territory, and winning the hearts of the people would require time. Rapid advancements would only invite numerous hidden perils. When the time is ripe, the princess, in her capacity as a remnant of the former dynasty, could rally all the old ministers whose interests have been threatened by Qi Changlan to rise against the traitor Qi. With your legitimacy, your maternal clan's military might, and my unique abilities, is the throne not within your grasp? My tone was fervent, yet the princess did not immediately yield to my persuasion. Xianyin, I must ponder this matter. Her deep gaze lingered on my hand, and I feigned ignorance of the malice hidden in her stare. Those outside my kin cannot be trusted. The princess was not yet at the age of seeking immortality and enlightenment. In her vigor, she could not fathom the ravages of age and illness. What ruler, in their prime, would not harbor trepidation toward a subordinate wielding such power? She might wonder when Song Xianyin began to scheme for the national fortune. Was our meeting mere happenstance, or was it orchestrated? Before departing, the princess queried, You could have silently plotted this marriage. With your cunning, marrying His Majesty would not pose a challenge. In that case, even if you seized national fortune, I would remain unaware. Why reveal the truth to me? Beneath her words lay a deeper inquiry. Why sow seeds of suspicion within me? I bowed respectfully. This is my trump card, and it is also my leverage. Should I relinquish my leverage to my sovereign, I would be granting you the power to harm me. I am aware of your many concerns, without something to restrain me. Would you truly trust me? All my actions are to solidify the enduring bond between us as sovereign and subject. Upon hearing this, the princess fell into a long silence. After a moment, she raised her head, tears glistening in her eyes. Xianyin, your foresight is remarkable, such a loyal minister. I am truly humbled. I too was misty-eyed. I only hope for my sovereign to return to her rightful place and achieve great deeds. Beyond that, Xianyin desires nothing else. As the princess departed, traces of tears remained on her face, yet I understood how feigned they were. She had finally learned to harbor suspicion, to engage in pretense with me. The tactics I once taught her were now turned against me. This was commendable. This path was inherently a solitary one. As a woman, she could trust no one. Not even me. Moreover, what I had conveyed to her was 3 parts truth and 7 parts falsehood. I divulged this matter to her partly because she still harbored grievances about my past with Qi Changlan. She was now aware that the woman who commands fate can usurp the fortunes of her husband's clan and could easily relay this information to Qi Changlan. Thus, Qi Changlan would be unable to marry me, let alone accept me as a concubine. The second reason was that seeking her aid was the swiftest route to marrying His Majesty. As I drew closer to solidifying my foundation, I felt the barriers of this world encroaching upon me. The spiritual energy in this realm was too meager to sustain a cultivator of my caliber. I feared that the day I established my foundation would also be the day I transcended this realm. At that point, whether she wished to kill me or feared me would be of no consequence to me. Sure enough, the following day, Sukai summoned me. I approached him with a face devoid of luster. I heard you were a beauty. Having seen you today, you are nothing extraordinary. His expression was grim. I feigned ignorance and maintained my posture of respect. I heard you and His Majesty share a deep affection? Indeed. Very well, prepare yourself. Tomorrow you shall wed His Majesty. Understood. In the past, imperial marriages required months of preparation. Now, this rebel had decreed that the ruler of the nation would marry his empress on a whim. How absurd yet amusing. Upon returning to my quarters, Chower reported news she had gathered. Her Highness the Princess said she vowed before her mother passed that she would marry only after the Emperor's wedding. The failure to marry the Qi traitor was due to this vow. Now that you and His Majesty are in love, she is willing to marry General Su once you two are united. I could not help but laugh. What a familiar tactic. Was it not the very line I once used to deceive Shirliang? I mused. The princess has grown up. Upon hearing this, Chower burst into tears. Oh, Chower. Why do you weep as I am to become empress? Chower shook her head. I just feel you have suffered too much. Suffered? I felt no such thing. Each day I awoke, I drew closer to my ambitions. Where was the suffering? I shook my head. Silly child, I am quite well. How could I be suffering? Chower mustered her courage. I have heard that you and General Qi were originally betrothed, but the princess set her sights on the general and forcibly tore you apart. Now that the general is about to breach the capital, the princess fears he still holds a place for you in his heart. She has begged General Su to bestow you upon His Majesty. The Emperor, in his current witless state, knows no restraint in his violence. Many attending maidens have suffered grievous injuries by his hand. So young, yet stripped of all prospects, how can this not be a bitter fate? Prospects? I murmured to myself, my aspirations lie not in such trivialities. Seeing Car's face still etched with concern, I could not help but offer solace. I have fallen from an official's daughter to a hairdressing maid in a brothel, yet climbed step by step from that abyss. Now, on the cusp of becoming the nation's mother, I shall partake of boundless fortune. Over these years, what I have gained far surpasses what I have sacrificed. Countless women have given 1,000-fold more than I, only to depart this world empty-handed. I deem this bargain most worthwhile. Car seemed to grasp only fragments. But to miss the chance with General Qi, will you not regret it? Regret? Perhaps. Had I not possessed the bloodline of the Fate Weaver, I might not have incited the princess. Might even have tasted the thrill of usurpation myself. Yet, how could mortal sovereignty and worldly riches compare to the pursuit of immortal ascension? I, Song Xianin, seek only the pinnacle. Were I to ascend as a celestial, I would spurn 100 emperors. Ka, I stroked her head, my lifelong quest does not reside here. Then where does it lie? In the realm of ultimate liberation and boundless freedom. 40. The moment the Jade Registrar inscribed my name upon the Imperial Lineage scroll, a tempestuous wind erupted around me. I stood with the addled Emperor upon the high altar of earth sacrifice. The vast earth trembled, myriad streams of fortune seeping from its fissures, ceaselessly flooding into my being. Such exhilaration, such rapture. The very earth lay in my palm, the empire at my command. I laughed unrestrainedly. Attendants, baffled by my mirth, were tossed by the gale, prostrating themselves lest they be swept away. The cosmic energies and mortal essence converged above me. The spiritual power within me surged wildly, coursing through my meridians. Ether inhaled into my channels, transformed into droplets of liquid essence, raining into my dantian. The Empire's waning fortunes became a potent tonic, mending my overstrained pathways. The essence flowed from my dantian, shaping into ethereal fish that swam toward my crown and soles. The fish became serpents, serpents into pythons, pythons into flood dragons, and dragons into true WRMS. Ominous clouds enshrouded the land, flickering with lightning and thunder. Violet bolts and azure strikes descended, I thrust the emperor aside and raised my hands to meet the heavenly tribulation. Excruciating pain radiated from my palms through my limbs, converging in my meridians as crackling energy purged the impurities within. The second violet lightning summoned my karmic debts, Shi Liang, Liang Mu, Mu Qi, my father, all materialized around me, wailing in agony. I may have wronged you, I declared coldly, but women are born into this world wronged by all, and when has anyone paid the price? I cannot survive without devouring your flesh and blood, so I beg you, perish. Flames erupted from my fingertips, exorcising and incinerating these inner demons. The tribulation strikes fell in relentless succession, denying me respite. After an eternity, the thunder's hue lightened, verging on gold. The roars echoed like ancient Titan's fury as golden lightning struck my crown with irresistible force. My body battered and broken. I threw back my head and roared, I shall command the winds and rains of this earth. How dare the sun emerge from the clouds? Torrential rains cascaded forth. Within my dantian, a celestial abode seemed cleaved open, countless spiritual forces flooding in with the tides of fortune. A distant messenger galloped, shouting, General Su, the capital has fallen. 41. By the time Qi Changlan led his troops through the palace gates, the tribulation had long ceased. The sky blazed with radiant hues and auspicious vapors. The common folk whispered that Qi Changlan was a heaven-sent true dragon, hence the marvels upon his entry. Sukai never imagined Qi's mere 20,000 troops could breach the capital. Knowing his doom was sealed, despair twisted into hatred, and he began slaughtering the harem. His soldiers ran amok, plundering and killing. Many imperial consorts and maidens met gruesome ends. Bloodlust consuming him, he burst into the princess's chambers, bloodied blade in hand. Sneering, awaiting your beloved betrothed, princess? The Qi traitor has ruined my grand design. Though I cannot slay him today, I shall take his intended as companion to the grave. To journey the yellow springs with a princess, what delight! I wonder how that whelp Qi Changlan will bear the theft of his bride. He laughed maniacally. The princess smiled gently in return. Her whip lashed out like a spirit serpent, seizing Sukai by the throat. The barbed thongs pierced his flesh, the battle-hardened general, never expecting the seemingly delicate princess to retaliate, choked and clawed at the coil around his neck. With a firm tug, the princess sent him crashing to the floor amidst shards, where a fragment pierced his skull, ending him. I rushed here fearing for your safety, yet my concern appears misplaced. I emerged from the shadows with a light laugh. The storms and thunder that racked the capital today, are they your doing? The princess wiped her whip clean, murmuring, That was my heavenly trial. I led her to the window, showing her the resplendent clouds and mists. Golden light cascaded from the heavens, showering the mortal realm. Thanks to you, princess, I have now laid my foundation. The mortal passage was torn asunder by the divine thunder, and I must soon depart this dusty world for the realms where cultivators gather. Before leaving, I wished to save you once more, though it seems my worries were unnecessary. The princess started, You are leaving? Indeed. I pressed an unremarkable pebble into her palm. Keep this safe. Crush it thrice, and within 10 feet, auspicious wonder shall manifest. You will know when to use it. Also, I entrust my maid Kara to your care. Though not clever, she is loyal and discerning, feed her. And she will serve you faithfully. As golden light enveloped me, the princess rushed forward, crying, When will you return? Song Sinin. When will you return? Perhaps on the day I ascend as an immortal. Half veiled in radiance, I left her with a whisper, Go, love him, slay him, then take his place. With these words, I bestowed upon the arriving Qi Changlan a fleeting smile before vanishing into the pillar of ascension. This vision, Qi Changlan would never forget. I had been his betrothed. Sacrificed my beauty to save him, wallowed in mire for his sake. Now I bathed in divine light, ascending before his eyes. How could he forget? With my shadow between them, the princess and Qi Changlan would never know marital bliss. The more she loved him, the more she would despise him. In time, the emperor and empress would clash in bloody strife. I would strip her of any chance to rest content upon the throne. I would force her to strive to seize. Alas, I shall not witness her grasping the imperial seal, seated upon the dragon throne. Epilogue. Drifting through the night, I wandered into the palace. Several women in official robes and black gauze caps debated new policies as they exited the gates. Lantern-bearing maids whispered, Her Majesty sleeps restlessly of late, do not disturb her. I found the princess's bedchamber, passed through the wall, and gazed upon her slumbering face. She had aged. Once radiant as peach blossoms, her countenance now rippled like spring waters weathered by time. Her skin had grown slack, with prominent veins tracing the backs of her hands. Deep furrows etched between her brows spoke volumes of countless worries. The crystalline clarity had vanished from her pupils, leaving behind unfathomable depths like mysterious ponds flowing towards unknown destinations. "You've awakened," I remarked with a gentle smile. "Ah, indeed I have," she responded. "You've aged." "Have I?" "Decades have passed, even the grass has withered." "So should I not age as well?" After a pause, she lamented, "Yet you remain unchanged." "No, you appear even more splendid than in our youth. While you've shouldered the burdens of governance, I've pursued the path of immortality. The celestial arts do preserve one's youth," I jested. "How marvelous to be an immortal, wandering freely through palace depths and inner courts." "Not entirely marvelous," I countered instinctively. "How have your years unfolded? Are the celestial realms filled with cloud-kissed palaces and exotic flora?" "Exotic flora indeed exists," I acknowledged. "Yet the celestial realm isn't truly celestial, merely mortals seeking immortality, still practicing plunder and strife. Share your experiences with me." She appeared weary, half closing her eyes. I contemplated momentarily before beginning. I found a master and joined a sect called Auspicious Stargate, learning cultivation methods and techniques. From the sect leader to the disciples, all were plagued by misfortune. The reason lies in our cultivation method, powerful yet consuming one's fortune. Many gifted disciples perished through unfortunate coincidences. Thus other sects label us bearers of calamity. "This cultivation method suits you perfectly," the Empress remarked coolly. "Hence my need for a new husband," I sighed dramatically. My first cultivation partner in the immortal realm came from an established cultivation family. He treated me exceedingly well, gentle, considerate, and attentive. Handsome and cultured. The Empress remained unimpressed. "Had he been flawless, he wouldn't have attracted your attention," Song Xianin. I smiled slyly. "Indeed. Their family's prosperity stemmed from breeding spirit-devouring insects. They captured obscure yet talented cultivators to feed these insects. 20 cultivators nourished one insect. Consuming such insects transformed mediocre cultivators into exceptional talents, advancing rapidly. After our marriage, everyone praised my virtue. When the truth emerged, their fortune declined rapidly. After my interference, the new generation became ordinary mortals without even basic spiritual roots. My partner, plagued by misfortune, met his end struck by lightning. After recounting, I inquired, "And you?" "As the human sovereign, surely everything proceeds smoothly?" "Smoothly? Quite the opposite, endless troubles." The Empress massaged her temples. "Being emperor means solitude. Without eyes or ears, I rely entirely on others' reports about the capital, provinces, counties, and towns, truth indistinguishable from falsehood. Court ministers quarrel for personal gain, noble families annex land to evade taxes, common-born officials form cliques for selfish interests. My decisions meeting their approval make me wise. Opposing them makes me incompetent. Corruption permeates everything, making integrity difficult. Honest officials refusing corruption face suspicion, false accusations, or schemes to eliminate them. When crises occur, those punished are never the true culprits. I wish to understand commoners' lives, but the distance from villages to county magistrates, prefectures, court, and finally palace is vast. Messages to sort through 4 levels of bureaucracy before reaching me. Over time, I've realized emperors essentially become deaf and blind. I proposed establishing girls' schools, encouraging families to educate daughters. Yet when schools opened, none attended. Noble daughters have private tutors, disdaining mixed academies. Merchant daughters, comfortable and unrestrained, prefer accounting over classical studies. Poor girls must work to support families, parents unwilling to lose income for education. So I offered subsidies to families sending daughters to school. This proved disastrous, I sighed. Indeed. Suddenly, abductions surged as families sought subsidies. The Empress shook her head. I learned how well-intentioned policies twist into evils through distorted human nature. How did you resolve this? I mandated noble daughters attend, making academies networking venues. Merchant daughters achieving top grades receive commercial tax reductions. Poor scholars work within academies for above-average wages. I established inspection offices with regular investigations. Abductors face exile or execution. Thus, my academies gain students. Governing proves arduous indeed, I reflected. The chief family army remains loyal to Changlan. Your maternal uncle's border troops require months to recall. Attempting usurpation without military support seems tremendously difficult. Indeed challenging. The Empress sighed. When we married, the nation remained fractured, rebel forces numerous, with southern pretenders watching eagerly. I accompanied Changlan through campaigns. He fought while I provided aid on battlefields. Those saved became my followers. I identified promising soldiers, having Chower befriend their wives. I memorized their names, origins, siblings, old injuries, dietary restrictions. Distributing rewards for Changlan, I ensured thoroughness. When he handled distributions, they always fell short. I discreetly recommended them for opportunities while Chower informed their wives. Gradually, they forgot Changlan, remembering only my benevolence. Changlan's sworn brothers, all exceptional talents. I subtly divided, generously rewarding less accomplished ones in his name while suppressing the successful. Their wives developed conflicts. Other seemingly minor matters received careful attention. No bond withstands erosion by domestic grievances. When the Qi army returned victorious and southern pretenders surrendered, loyalties had already shifted. She spoke lightly. Yet I understood the years of meticulous effort required. Mighty embankments crumble from ant nests. Changlan, confident in his prowess, likely overlooked such details, I observed. Instead of responding, she asked, "And you? I don't believe someone as covetous as you settled for one cultivation partner." I chuckled at her insight. After finding another partner burdened with karmic debts, his sect, collaborating with demons to trade cultivators, vanished. Unexpectedly, despite my efforts at concealment, traces remained, attracting attention. This individual obtained ancient demonic arts to imprint emotions on women, making them devoted lovers. He abducted numerous female cultivators, compelling them to become his cauldrons, establishing a palace deep in mountains, living like an emperor with 3,000 concubines. Accompanying the arcane arts is a tome detailing an array of extraordinary female physiques, chronicling hundreds of types that may prove advantageous to men. Among them are the purine body and the crystal clear body, and naturally, there is mention of the fate-controlling maiden. He found it rather peculiar that the clans of my two companions fell into disarray, and upon meticulous investigation, he sought me out. The Empress erupted into hearty laughter. He dares to keep a tiger at bay, fully aware of your murderous past? I too could not suppress a chuckle. He is under the delusion that my husband's demise stemmed from a lack of genuine affection. A woman as cold-hearted and unfeeling as I, once stirred by passion, feels no remorse for her ruthless actions. He has never learned his lesson, always viewing himself with inflated esteem, believing that by capturing me, he could ensnare my heart. Then, he intended to marry me into a prestigious sect, seizing its fortune and transferring it to himself. Little does he realize that while some women may fall deeply in love and obey wholeheartedly, others, despite their affections, are equally capable of bloodshed. He has also forgotten that beyond being a fate-controlling maiden, I am a cultivator. I leaned tenderly against his chest, filled with admiration, while secretly shattering his nascent soul with a magical artifact. After I vanquished him, those women awoke from their stupor, retching uncontrollably. They captured his spirit, erasing his consciousness. And thereafter, their actions remain unknown. Regardless, this is what he rightfully deserved, and there is little more to say. However, before his demise, he set a trap for me. And upon my emergence from seclusion, I discovered that everyone was already aware of my identity as the fate-controlling maiden. Due to my ability to annihilate entire clans in just, I was even designated as the foremost among the 6 great demonesses. My master was overjoyed, urging me to bear daughters to continue this precious bloodline, ensuring that he would no longer fear the extinction of the Jixing sect. In a mere century, the number of high-ranking female cultivators in our realm surged significantly. The Empress was in fits of laughter, pointing at me, Song Xianin, "Look at you now." With a sense of resignation, I responded, "The vicissitudes of life are indeed unpredictable." After a moment of sighing, I couldn't help but chuckle again. There's another amusing tale. Since my rise to fame, some men, despite resembling old toads, have taken great care to avoid me, fearing I might choose to marry them. The Empress empathized entirely. Indeed, men are like that. I once summoned a number of handsome young men to serve me, and those in the court who were similarly handsome were struck with trepidation. unwilling to be alone with me. Do they think I lack discernment? We exchanged knowing glances, bursting into laughter together. After a brief silence, I noticed her expression soften. And, turning to her with a smile, I said, "Your Highness, I must take my leave. It has been many years. Yet I have once again heard you address me as Your Highness." Her slightly clouded gaze seemed to pierce through me, as if recalling the fervent young girl in red who once wielded a whip like a pomegranate flower. So many years have passed, and the former princess, driven by ruthlessness and greed, has become the sovereign I had envisioned. She has done remarkably well. "I know you did this on purpose," she suddenly remarked. You intentionally ascended just as Qi Chang'an arrived, ensuring he would forever lament the missed opportunity to claim you. The Empress continued, "I do not blame you. Rather, I am grateful. Those who have never been emperors cannot fathom the exquisite sensation of controlling the lives and deaths of others with every action. In my youth, I was foolishly enamored and fearful of power. How utterly naive. How laughable. Song Xianin, I thank you for igniting this ambition within me. You are too kind, Your Highness." I extended a pill towards her. According to fate, an emperor cannot cultivate immortality. Each generation of emperors has their own destiny. However, I can still ensure you live a little longer. She accepted it without hesitation. "You once said you would return only upon achieving immortality. Have you attained it now?" I nodded, then shook my head. During my tribulation, I encountered a sword cultivator. He appeared indifferent, yet secretly harbored deep affection for me. Fearing that I bore too much karma, he shielded me from several bolts of tribulation lightning, ultimately perishing in my stead. I thus overcame my inner demons and ascended to immortality. My original body remains immersed in the immortal ascension pool, contemplating past promises. And so I send a fragment of my soul down to see you." Noticing my expression, the Empress suddenly inquired, "Do you have feelings for this individual?" "Indeed," I admitted. "I feel love, gratitude, and guilt towards him. Yet the sensation of ascending is indescribably exhilarating. Those who have never ascended cannot hope to grasp such bliss. I fear that if given another chance, I would not hinder him from sacrificing himself for me." The Empress teased, and then shed a tear for him. I laughed precisely. The end. Thank you for listening, and until our next tale, farewell.